The curtain's rising again at Redlands Museum and will be opening in September with a brand new show about Australian women poets called Women of Their Word. One of the cast is professional actor who you'll probably last have seen at the Billy Brown Theatre in Antigone. Playing the role of Dorothy Hewett, we have Penny Everingham. Penny, thanks a million for joining us.
Hello, Jan. It's my pleasure.
The woman that you're playing, Dorothy Hewett, is a fairly recent person. You know, a lot of the roles you play as an actor are fictional characters or people we don't know, or they're so far back in history you can take a few liberties. But does it limit your interpretation when you have to play someone who, until very recently, was still very much a part of the Australian community?
Yeah, actually, it's a good question, and it's something that I've been struggling with actually a little bit with this beat for that very reason. I don't think it actually limits it, but I think, well, it shouldn't limit it because there's so much information about her that it should enhance it. In the long run, I'm sure it will enhance it. But there's a lot of, you've got to get through, there's so much information about her. And it's also alive. She's still so alive in our society. There are plays, there are poems, books. She's all over the internet. There are photos. Everybody sort of knows something about Dorothy Hewett, has a vision of her or an image or an expectation of what she was like. So it's almost as if, well, being an actor, when you create a character, you get to the point where you want to actually own, you can actually own that character. It becomes a part of you in a sense. That's easy to do with historical characters because they lived a long time ago, and fictional characters because all you've really got with the fictional characters anyway is what's written in the script. And that does give you a lot of a lot of artistic license. It gives you a big area where you can create and therefore own the character. But with this, it's almost like as if Dorothy Hewett herself still owns the character in a sense. I can't really explain it any better than that. I think though, as I say, I think in the long run, it will enhance it. And I think also the understanding of the society and politics, the history of the time in a sense, even though it's very close to us, but that all helps too. Yeah.
She was an incredibly prolific writer. And have you found in researching and reading, I know that you've done a lot of her plays, but also in reading the poetry, that you find out more from what she has written than you do from what other people have written about her?
Well, I certainly do. I certainly have, yes. I did start by reading the autobiography, which I had never read. I haven't actually been in a lot of her plays. I have read a few of her plays. The first time I came across Dorothy Hewett was at NIDA, and we did a couple of readings. And then I have used a couple of the characters from her plays as speeches, as monologues, as audition pieces over my lifetime. But I'm sorry, what was the question? I got lost. The rest of the question is what?
Did you learn as much about her from her
yes, of course.
writings,
yes.
even the fictional ones, as you did about reading about her?
No. Well, you learn, there's a lot to be learned in a sort of factual sense, facts about her, this and happened. And in the autobiography, there is a certain amount of her reacting in a sense to her situation. So we see more of the character, but of course, having read that, then I thought, man, this hasn't really sort of given me the answer I'm looking for, given me not an answer, it's a key to find a way into the character. So I thought, I'll go back and read some of the work. And actually I haven't read an awful lot of her plays at all. So, which is bad. I probably should have over the years read more, but I haven't. So So I went back and read the plays, and the first one I read, I thought I'll read them in order of having been written, that she wrote them in. And the first one is a play called Chapel Perilous. And Chapel Perilous follows the life of the leading character, Sally Banner. It is the most amazing play, and it was first produced in Melbourne 1973, I think it was. And David Williamson's wife, Kristen, who is also a writer, went to see it when it was done in Melbourne. And she was so impressed by it. She rang up whichever paper, The Age probably, and said, can I please be the critic for this play? And I have a book of her collected works in my collection, and I was reading the introduction to it. Chapel Perilous is in that collection. I was reading the introduction, and I found this lovely quote from Kristen. Can I read that to you?
Yes, please.
It's a quote about when she went to see the Chapel Perilous. And I quote, "It was more exhilarating and disturbing than anything I had ever experienced since reading The Female Eunuch. I was not the only woman in the audience who thought that Sally Banner was the first woman ever seen on the Australian stage, the first liberated woman ever seen on the Australian stage. There were thousands of us. To us, she was not just a strong-minded female in search of self-fulfillment, but an artist who knew that if her creativity was to be realized, she would have to take risks and walk naked through the world," which is a quote from one of the lines of Sally. So Kristen could easily have been talking about Dorothy Hewett. And Dorothy herself admits that the story of Sally Banner is almost an autobiography. So I found that one. I started to read that, and I found this is a huge help, because Dorothy Hewett's writing. She has created all these wonderful, sort of wild, colourful, rebellious, tragic, sad, extreme characters, but she's also given them this beautiful, colourful, strong, imaginative sort of language to express themselves. And that was one of the things that really attracted me about her too. So yeah, and it's a work in progress. I mean, I am still reading the plays. The plays are all extraordinarily different. She seems to. It's almost like, I mean, probably the purists will shout me down about this, and I'm not a sort of very erudite Dorothy Hewett person, but it's almost like as if she's trying out different forms with every play. There seem to be a huge expanse of styles, if you like, within the plays.
The play, sorry.
Sorry.
So the play that I particularly fell in love with was The Man from Muckanuppin.
Yeah.
And you've told me that that's one of the more realistic of her works.
Well,
I think it was so far off the wall, I adored it.
Yeah, the most realistic one is This Old Man Comes Rolling Home. I think that's very much, it's almost sort of, within the realms of the current playwriting of her time. But it also includes a chorus, and a lot of her plays seem to have, or a few of her plays have a chorus.
You mean like a Greek chorus?
Well, Sally Banner, the schoolgirls, it follows her life. It starts off with the sort of graduation of Sally Banner from school. And there's the headmistress and there's a character called the Amplifier, and there's also the headmistress amplified. And the headmistress talks about how wonderful Sally Banning is and how she won all these prizes for literature and things, which again is Dorothy Hewett. And then the amplified voice is talking about all the sort of the other side of those conversations, and the headmistress is amplified. She's reading all this lovely stuff about Sally Banner, and then she says, the amplified voice comes in and says, but oh, really, she was a rebellious child, and I didn't know what to do with her. She, you know, what do you do with a person like that? You know, she was never going to make it. She was, you know, and all this stuff.
So it's the things you'd like to say, but you don't say.
And then there's a huge chorus of schoolgirls. Oh, it's not huge, but it seems like a huge chorus of schoolgirls chanting all this stuff, and, you know, all things bright and beautiful, whatever it is. And then there are other words, you know. And then the man from, no, this old man comes rolling home has a chorus in it too. It's got, that's the Greek, we're in the Greek chorus thing. He calls it the Greek chorus, and it's three old ladies who live in, live in Redfern.
Yeah, one suburb away from where I grew up. Know it well.
There you go.
Penny, I know that you're a great fan of Dorothy Hewett's work since forever. Do you feel that you know her better now, having done all the research for this role?
Well, I think, as I said before, it's a work in progress. I'm still getting to know her. I've still got a lot of reading and stuff to do. But there comes a time when you have to sort of just say, okay, well, that's that. And now I know what, you know, it's just a case of finding the character within yourself, really. So it can be like honest interpretation of your version of Dorothy Hewett, not just what, you know, you don't just look at them, you say, oh, well, she was very rebellious. And you think, oh, I know how to be rebellious. But it's got to be actual from your experience too. You know, it's got to.
Yes.
And bad, you know, that becomes more and more deeper and deeper as the more and more you understand it.
Of all of her characteristics, Penny, what characteristics impressed you most, either for better or worse?
Well, I think,
look at the good side of things.
I think the passion, I think the fact that she was, the tenacity in her bravery to, there's a quote here, there's another quote here I've got somewhere, there's another quote from that, oh, I don't know what I've done with it now. There's another quote from it's a line of Sally's, and she realizes, she realizes that if her, did I say this before, if her poetry and so forth, or if her creativity is going to be realized, she has to walk naked through the world.
Yes.
And it's that tenacity and the bravery that's attached to that. And that's because it's exactly what Dorothy Hewett virtually does. You know, she never loses, and it's a sort of naivety about her in a sense, but it is linked with that desire for an artist to be completely honest.
And would you say she was uncompromising with her sense of, what's okay and what isn't okay, or what she was prepared to do?
Yes, uncompromising is a good word. Absolutely.
Interesting.
So, I sort of scribbled down some things, you know, words, but honesty, passion, naivety. Oh, now I've got all my papers muddled up and I can't find anything anyway, so it doesn't matter. But that sort of says, you know. There's another little quote here. Sally believed that blood and flesh were wiser than the intellect. So that's another thing about her. You find her in the gut.
Limbic brain.
You sort of find her in the guts of the woman, not in the head, in a sense.
Right. I'll go back and reread that with new thoughts. Penny, it's been great having you here today, and thank you so much for talking about the character that you'll be portraying. Is there any particular piece that really you think encapsulates Dorothy Hewett's person or her works or her style?
Well, I mean, I think whatever you choose, almost, you know, is going to do that. But I have got a monologue that I thought you might enjoy. From This Old Man Comes Rolling Home. And since we've talked about the chorus and the Redfern ladies as being the Greek chorus, I've chosen a bit which I've made it one character, basically, contracted it just, you know, for the use of this. And there are the three of them. Anyway, they're commenting. They keep it, they're used as a sort of comic relief in a sense too, but they sort of comment on what's going on. So anyway, they're these three old ladies, they're in court, going home to Redfern, and they're having a little bit of a rest on the way. And Pansy says, it's getting a bit chilly days. Be snowing in them mountains tonight, love. I got to rest my legs before I go up them terrible steps home. Hey, look here, girls. Here he is again, parked on the ladies only, as if he didn't know whether he was Arthur or Martha. Looks as comfy as if he was in the best suite at the Hotel Australia. Don't he look peaceful, poor old sod? Not much for you when you get old, is there? Haven't got the heart to shift him. Oh, well, any port in a storm, I suppose. All I want's a bit of peace, and that's hard to find. The heads will have us all pushed into one of them atomic wars before they finish mucking up. They're always getting these ideas, bossy. That's what they are. I mean, look at that now. Slum clearance. That's what they call it. All them bloody little flats. Nah, my bit of Redfern will do me. Always been the same. Bit on the pokey side. Wants the roof fixed up bad, but it's home, ain't it? You can sit on your doorstep and have a good mag without too many narks. Oh, well. Come on, girls, we better be getting home before we gets into trouble. We'll get lumbered for loitering or something. And off they go.
Isn't that wonderful? And as I said, it's the area that I grew up in and know so well, and she catches the suburban working class so precisely, so well. But she wasn't suburban working class herself, was she?
It's interesting because she certainly lives within that suburban working class sort of atmosphere. I mean, and physically she lives within it too when she's married to Les, or not married to Les.
And very passionate
and passionate about it, exactly. But in fact, she was born into quite a middle class. And I got the feeling that there was a slight, it's almost as if, you know, there's a slight conflict. I mean, she rejects the whole of the middle class thing, clearly. But there's almost like as if there's some little thing in her that just doesn't quite ever get out of it, you know what I mean? Or doesn't ever quite come to, resolves the clash or resolves the problem for her.
Because she certainly became, she was a member of the Communist Party for years, wasn't she?
Absolutely.
And she even challenged that at one stage. Nothing was safe.
No, absolutely not. No.
Penny's
but she had amazing.
Sorry?
She did have an amazing life. I mean, she had the most incredible life, really. It was just, and all over the place. I mean, she back and forth about Western Australia and Sydney and Melbourne and back to Western, you know, with kids and no kids and leaving her kids with somebody else. And, you know, just an amazing life, really.
Yeah, very much.
And especially for that time.
Yes, particularly.
Yeah.
It's been wonderful speaking with you, Penny. It'll be wonderful having you on stage. Thank you so much for joining Theatre Redlands in this, our very first production, and I think one of the first productions to open in Queensland since the COVID lockdown hit the theatres. How exciting is that? Making history all over.
Will you beat? Yeah, you will beat. Yeah, we'll beat the festival. Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Maybe.
Yeah, Saturday the God, I should know this, the 5th of September,
Yes, you
I
should.
think.
Okay.
The first Saturday in September we open. It'll be absolutely wonderful. Thanks so much for being with us.
That's a great pleasure. Thanks, Jen. Okay, bye.
Bye. There's Penny Everingham, who'll be playing Dorothy Hewett in Women of Their Word, a production about a selection of Australian women poets at the Redlands Museum, presented by Theatre Redlands in September. Pop onto the Redland Museum Facebook or website for more information. Make your bookings because numbers are limited. Even at this stage with COVID and Queensland's good status, seating's limited, so make sure you make your bookings, and we'll look forward to seeing you then. I'm Jan Neary. Catch you soon.